Hi everyone, this is Allan McKay. Welcome to episode 161. I'm doing a deep dive this week into mindset because it's the glue that makes everything stick. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Allan McKay Podcast. Allan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Allan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Allan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on allanmckay.com.
Have you ever sent in your reel wondering why you didn't get the call back? Or what was the reason you didn't get the job? Here's the thing. Most of us think you just put your latest work on your reel to some cool music and send it off, and then you get the job. A lot of us aren't aware that the majority of the reels sent to studios are skipped through and sometimes never even watched in the first place. The fact is, everything we're taught about landing a job as an artist is wrong. Over the past 20 years working for studios like Industrial Light and Magic, Ubisoft, Blur Studio, I built hundreds of teams, hired thousands of artists, and reviewed tens of thousands of reels. That's why I decided to write a book from the perspective of somebody that actually does the hiring. Learn the exact formula to captivate and qualify you as the obvious artist for the job, how to build a reel that ranks high on YouTube and attracts studios to you. The best part is with this book, you can get it right now absolutely free. Whether you're in design, games, TV, or film, go over to allanmckay.com/myreel. One of the key things as we go through our career is really having the right mindset. And I wanted to touch on this for a lot of reasons. And I feel like it's mostly to do with the eagerness we have to be successful. A lot of us are in a hurry and we think that the magic bullet is, I just gotta learn this new software, or I just gotta get a job on whatever and everything's gonna work out okay. And the more that I see this externally, because I feel like I've known this for a long time, as in, I know if my mind isn't right, I'm not going to get the right results in anything I'm doing. And it means I've got to be really careful to always be pushing forward and not just focusing on talent or skill or any of these other things that really, I feel, can be a bit of a gimmick at times. I think it's a conversation for another time, but I do honestly feel that anyone can acquire a skill. You got to put in the time, and I think that most people acquire the skill because they've got the right mindset. It's not because they were born with some natural talent. Again, much bigger conversation, and it applies in different ways to different things. But when it comes to being able to do something, it's the mindset that allows you to pick up the skill, to naturally get good at it, all of these different things. It's more about how you're analyzing all your information, if you're present with what you're doing, if you're willing to screw up to learn, or if you're too afraid to break anything that you don't get your hands dirty. All of these things are part of the process. Now, when it comes to mindset, I feel like that is the key pillar that's going to get you to where you want to go, because it allows you to sit down and figure out, okay, here I am, here's where I want to be, here are the things I got to do, and I'm prepared for the suckiness that's about to ensue. And I feel like with military, all these other things, like there's a boot camp, there's a way to break you down and rebuild you. And it is because a lot of people don't have that mindset. They have many different mindsets all coming in. And I guess from a military perspective, not that I'm an expert on this, but it makes sense when you have all of these different mindsets coming in and you want to have one single focus, you've got to realign all of that. And that's a big focus in the beginning. When it comes to what we're doing and what we're doing in our career, I feel like a lot of us either don't have goals or we do, but they're focused on the wrong things. I actually just ran a survey to close to 100,000 people earlier this week, and it was really interesting to get some of the metrics back, getting back information about how much people are willing to focus on their career. Not willing, but how much they feel that they do. And it's not bad. Like a lot of people say about 60%. I feel like when it says 60, it probably means 40. But either way, like career should be a very big part of what we're focusing on rather than the software and all these other things. So I'm just going to backpedal for a moment and talk about something which I have brought up before, more out of frustration than anything else. And I feel like that's some of the greatest episodes when I'm really, really annoyed at mindset of certain people. But when it comes to a lot of our goals, I think that we do put our pain point aligned with the wrong metrics. So in other words, I'll give an analogy, which is the gym. Okay, one of the big problems that a lot of us have is that we say, got to lose weight, therefore I got to go to the gym. And over and over and over, it's like, I must join a gym to lose weight, must join a gym to lose weight, over and over it. After a while, you finally say, okay, I'm going to join a gym today so I can get in shape. All of this time, mentally, you've been aligning this pain point with the solution being the gym. So what do most people do? I'm guilty of this as well. You join a gym and you never go, because at that point you get that dopamine hit, you get that reward for saying you did it. You overcame that massive pain point in your life. And therefore, you can now go on your merry way. Now, this hopefully makes sense with a lot of you. It's assigning the pain to the wrong area. So not, I need to start working out and setting goals around that to get this result. Instead, it's, I joined the gym, even though logically you're aware that the workout is required, it's not what you're assigning the pain point to. The same way a lot of people might say, I'm unhappy, I must be in a relationship. Therefore, they get in a relationship thinking that that is what they needed to fix their lives, to fix something up. And so a lot of people start to look at the wrong metrics, the wrong things to resolve the issue. And I guess if you wanted to go deeper into it, you could look at alcohol and things like that. I think that's a bit of a different subject with addiction and everything else, but these are things that people turn to. They're looking for an external result, but they're not picking the right one. Usually the right one means there's a process I need to do, and at the end, we're going to get this result. So it's so critical for us to set goals in the beginning, but it's more critical to set the right goals. If we don't, what we measure success with all goes out the window. So this is where it frustrates me when, let's say someone signs up for my mentorship and they say, I'm so happy, this is going to change my life, I'm so psyched, my kid just told me they're so proud of me that I'm doing this and I'm going to go all in, I'm going to give it everything I've got. And then the moment they experience any difficulty, resistance, or I've got to do some work, suddenly it's like, I don't have time. This seems like I actually got to do something. I thought I would just swipe their credit card and magically I'd have skills and my whole life would turn around and everything would change. So suddenly they're backpedaling like, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, I don't have enough time, whatever the excuses might be. And it frustrates me because there's only so much I can do. And I always say this, that unfortunately, I cannot go to your house and grab you by the ear and force you to sit down at your computer and do the work. You got to take some responsibility. And unfortunately, a lot of people do have the situation where they don't want the responsibility, they want the result. So they think again that by doing something, they're buying the result. And you're not. You're buying the opportunity to do something great, to be something great. And we have a saying in my business, in my company, specifically because of this. It's like people wanted to swipe their credit card and get six-pack abs. And they think just simply by arriving, by signing up for the gym, by swiping their credit card, by paying for something, they're getting that result. And they need to realign their pain point with, you want to do something, yes, you're going to need to find the right course. You're going to need to find the right opportunity. You're going to need to find a place that you can begin your journey. But that's where the work begins. It isn't the Matrix where with a hit of a button, you now know Kung Fu, okay? It's the work, the grind, the hustler's mentality that you've got to put in. You've got to put in the work in the trenches to get that result. So when you join a course, when you do something like that, now the hard work begins. Now you've shown up at that bottom of the mountain. The climbing, the pain, the journey that you've got to go on all begins now. Whereas before you might have said, I want to climb to the top of a mountain. But getting there is not the same as climbing it. And that's where I feel like a lot of people fall off. A lot of people need to realign their pain point with, I need to acquire a certain amount of skills and guidance and all of these other things so I can get to my goal. Not, I need to swipe my credit card. You know, whether something's free, whether something's commercial, it doesn't matter. It's about the opportunity and the experience that you go along the way. So I think a lot of us are afraid to put in the work, or a lot of us are afraid of failure, that if we do this, then we're not going to be very good at it in the beginning. You know, we're going to go in there and it's like, well, what if I suck? What if people are better than me? What if other people get it? I'm going to be intimidated and I'm going to be uncomfortable. This is tricky. This requires work. I can't do this. I'm lost. all those frustrations, and that's part of the process. I always say you got to eat shit with a smile. You got to be in the trenches and do the work and experience the failures, because I think that that is where the most growth happens. And of course, you are going to fail in the beginning. You are going to suck in the beginning. I've mentioned this before, but there's a saying Garrett J. Wyatt once said, which just really resonated with me, which was that in the beginning, you're going to suck. You're going to fail. And every single time that you fail, you're going to suck a little less. And eventually, if you keep at it, maybe one day you won't suck anymore. Okay. And that is exactly the mentality that you got to have, that, okay, I'm doing something new. And yes, it's going to be hard. If I experience resistance and say, well, this is hard, should I quit? Or should I understand that that's part of the process and I've got to keep at it? I've got to keep pushing myself. I don't want to be lazy. I want to succeed. I've got to think of my pain points and where I want to be in the end and keep reminding myself that this is part of the process. I see so many people who quit, and what ends up happening, 2 years later, they're in the exact same place they were when they first began. When I talk about my mentorship, there's people who've come back years later saying, this was the biggest mistake I've ever made. I really want to go and do it again because nothing has changed. I'm still exactly where I was when I first spoke to you, when I first started, when I first quit. And I think a lot of us have this where we want to make change, but we're not willing to put in the work. So this is really critical to understand that, okay, if I want change, if I want to do something, you got to be in it to win it. You got to eat shit with a smile. You got to really push forward and understand that you are going to fail. You are going to suck, but that's part of the process. Okay, so going and learning a new language. You're not going to go in there, do one lesson, and then say, great, I speak fluent Spanish. Perfect. I don't have to do another lesson. You understand that you're going to go in there and you're probably not going to say anything for a very long time because it takes work. It takes time. And eventually you'll be able to get better at it. Eventually you won't suck as much. And one day, if you keep at it, maybe you won't suck at all. That's part of the process. You want abs? It's the same thing. Understanding that there's stakes. Okay. When I moved to Portland, Oregon, I moved here on purpose because things were a little bit too comfortable for me and I wanted to make things uncomfortable again. I think I had like a Rocky 3 analogy where you're kind of at the peak of a mountain and everything's going great. And when there are no challenges, you're not pushing yourself as much. So you take those comforts away. You take away your money. You take away all the things that come easy to you. It's going to make it a lot more difficult. You're going to have to work harder for it. And that's how you can kind of stay hungry and keep on that. So you got to focus on the pain points. You got to keep measuring your success and your failures as you move through. It's easy to always say, like, I'm going to let my work speak for itself. And those are the people who are continuously firing out reel after reel, wondering why they don't get any callbacks. You put in the work now, you show up, you eat shit, and then inch by inch, you get to where you want to be. That's the reality of your reality. You put in the work and you get that growth. It's all part of the process. If I were to ever say there's quick wins, it's more by making intelligent decisions, building a system, setting goals, measuring it all. That's how you get a quick win, opposed to fumbling around reactively. And then eventually, maybe if you're lucky, landing where you want to be and saying, well, wow, that was a lot of hard work. The quick wins are being intelligent, being proactive, pushing through and leaning into the pains. So I keep emphasizing this because I think it's so critical. Have a system, do the work. The more you do this, the more that you are putting in work, contacting people, building relationships, chasing work, saying yes to everything, eventually it starts to go in reverse. Eventually you having to do the outreach, you having to eat shit, you having to chase work, you having to build awareness about who you are with everyone that you meet, it starts to go backwards. You're not having to travel for the work. You're not having to work crappy hours, work crappy money, work crappy clients. You get to pick and choose your projects. You get to have people come to you and you get to decide what you want to do. I've had almost $2 million US in projects this week, and it's only Wednesday, come to me through Facebook, Instagram, email, and Skype. And almost $1 million of that was just this morning. Now, again, not saying that to brag. I'm saying that is the reality. You put in the work and it starts to change around. You wake up in the morning and you check your Facebook and you got people who are like, hey, I haven't spoken to you in years. I've got these 3 projects. They're all about 300 grand each. Do you want to do them? You check your Instagram, you check your email. All of these opportunities keep coming in. And of course, you can't do them all. And that's a good opportunity. That's a good position that you want to be in, is that you're too busy to say yes to anything because you got so much going on. That's when you get to choose, you know what? do I want to be stressed and take on all these projects, or do I want to focus on something that's more important to me? And you get to choose what's important to you rather than everyone else telling you what to do because it's important to them. I look at projects like the more money that was on the table, usually the better the client. When I was doing jobs where it's like $1,000 a week, I would be working harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I would be stressed, ready to throw up, and hating every single part of it, my health, everything going to shit for nothing, for literally a small amount of money if you were to divide it down. And that's what I would do sometimes. I would be sitting there working 20 hours a day, sometimes 23 hours a day. And when I start to get that money, because you might say, well, $1,000 a week, that's pretty good money. If I start doing the math on that and saying, well, considering the hours that I'm working, I'm making half of what someone at McDonald's would make. So again, knowing your metrics, knowing, well, hey, is this going to create new opportunities for me? Maybe if I eat shit on this project, at least it's creating opportunities that will allow me to move into better places. And I'll remember these situations to avoid later, and also make sure that I never make these mistakes on my employees as well. But this is where it's all momentum. It's like trying to get a car that's broken down to start moving. You got to budget a bunch of times and it's not really going to move. It's going to have a lot of resistance. But as it starts to get that traction, as it starts to get that momentum, it gets easier and easier and easier. And that's exactly how all this stuff works. Unfortunately, a lot of us, we just expect the car to turn on. We expect to just hop in and everything to work. And as soon as it doesn't, you just want to give up and leave it and walk away. And that's how I feel a lot of people tend to be. And this is why I get frustrated, because I want success and I'm willing to make myself available to help everyone with their success. But I think we all need to be reminded once in a while that we have to put in the work. We have to understand the journey. At the same time, I think it's very easy for us to think that we're so busy, we don't have much time, and then complain that we're not getting the results in our life that we want. I think that's a really common thing as well. And I'd love to look at someone's schedule and see where that time is going and what their priorities are. Because I guarantee for a lot of us, you're going to have that big goal and then you're going to go and be really busy doing all these things. And if you actually stop for a minute and say, does any of these actually align with where I want to be? The answer is always going to be no. And I'm guilty of this. Monday, I had a killer day. I got so much done. Tuesday as well. But I had goals for this week. And I'm looking around like, wow, like I didn't get to touch any of the things that were really important to me. I was helping different team members. I was doing email and a lot of other random things that all are necessary things I need to get done. But when I look at the end of the day and I say, okay, what of the core 3 things I set out to do today, or the core thing I want to accomplish this week, what of those got done? What things got me closer to that? And in that case, it's like, wow, I got a lot done. I should feel good about that. But none of this was helping the big picture stuff. So that's the point where you're going to start making decisions about where your time is going. Saying, I don't have enough time to do a course, therefore I'm going to quit. And I'm not saying this like this is something that's happened recently and I'm upset about it or anything. I'm saying this as an example because whether it's me or whether it's anyone else, like I hear these sorts of things all the time. Like, oh, I'd love to be successful and have money and have my dream job that I'm passionate about. I'm finding it rewarding every single day that I go to it, but I'm too busy doing the job that I hate and complaining about everything that's going wrong in my life, not having the money and the success that I want. Those are things that pop up all the time. And I hate saying that because it sounds really harsh, but that's the reality if you were to be blatantly honest about it. So it's easy for us to be busy for the sake of being busy, but that doesn't help us. I think it's 271 Kelvin is the boiling temperature, or I should say the amount of energy that needs to be dispersed to boil water. And beyond that amount, the energy is just going to waste. It's getting the same result. The water is boiling, but putting more energy into that is not going to boil it anymore. And this is how we are. We're treading water a lot of the time. We're being busy, we're burning energy, but the energy isn't directed to something specific. Or we're putting way more work than is necessary into what we're trying to accomplish, rather than saying, okay, here is a sufficient amount of time that I need to put into my career to earn my money, into this to have fun, into my sleep, all of these different things. But if I just change a little few things, I can free up some energy to put into something that actually is really valuable. So I think that's a critical one that we all need to think about, is where our time is going. On and off, I try and track my time. And more recently, I've been doing that a lot more because I remember even a few months ago, like I hadn't left home in quite a while and I had to fly to LA for something. I hopped on a plane and literally as soon as I'm on the plane taking off, it all occurred to me like, what the hell have I been doing the past couple of months? It took me getting out of my bubble to kind of look at it from a different perspective and realize like, wow, like I've been really busy doing a bunch of stuff, but there's a few key goals I said at the beginning of the year. Where are they? Are they done? No, they're still waiting. They're still floating around. So I've been obviously busy doing a lot of stuff that probably isn't going to push the needle. Tracking your time every single week, having goals and being able to say like, okay, is everything that I'm planning to do today, is that going to align with like the one key thing that I want to get done? Or this month, what's my big goal? Okay, well, great. If I look at all the things I'm doing, are these going to help me with that? And it means that some things you might just be able to tweak and say, well, if I look at it this way, it will help me. But other times you got to start to cull the herd. You got to start to look at filtering out the things that aren't going to move the needle, that are not going to get you closer to the bigger goal. Otherwise, like I said, it's like burning energy. It's actually 273 Kelvin to boil water, but beyond that, you're just wasting energy doing something that isn't going to give you that result. So put your energy where it matters. You can have set goals, track those metrics, fail, repeat, eventually win. And this goes back to skill. I think that we can all have the same goal, the same amount of time. One person gets there and probably in less time, and the other person or other people don't because they're just showing up. They're not actually hitting their goals. They're not measuring it all. They're not pushing forward. They're not hustling. They're not doing that every single day. They're not being intelligent where that time and energy is spent. So like I said, I want to reiterate this as much as I can. You can either choose to quit when things get difficult, or as soon as you get even a little bit of resistance or require doing work, oh my God. Or you can be busy. You can say, I'm so fucking busy. I'm doing all of these things. I'm stressed. I got no time in my life. And that's not being successful. That's not putting the energy where it matters. I think a lot of us keep overlooking the key thing of having a goal, having a system, having this stuff in place, because this is how we move forward. This is how we're able to efficiently get stuff done. And when you want results quick, this is the solution, is to have that system, have those goals, measure those wins, measure those fails. Bit by bit, you keep moving forward. You use all of that information to get to where you're going. Or eventually, if you're just burning that energy, you're going to give up anyway. You're set to fail. I'm the king of metaphors lately, but I mentioned this in a podcast, I think at the very end of last year, which was that I felt like a lot of the time we are treading water. And I pictured it like, if we're in the middle of the ocean, we could be staying busy, doing stuff, but we're just treading water. We have no goal in mind. Now, the only thing worse than just being busy for the busy sake and not really accomplishing anything is maybe having a goal, but not checking in on your goal. In other words, you might start swimming in some random direction, and eventually you look back and realize that island is a lot smaller now. It's a lot further away than it was before, because you got to check occasionally. You got to look up and say, am I aligned? Is this working? Am I getting results? Am I getting closer to that? Now, I love metaphors because they seem to come so naturally, but I'm hoping that that makes sense. I'm hoping that that resonates with you because, again, it's very easy to say all this, but if you're not putting it into action and making sense of it, then it's not going to do anything. But I will say, like, I have friends and colleagues that I know who won't go into business with other business owners until they've had at least one major failure in their business. And that's because it shows how they handled it, that they learned from it, that they managed to compile themselves and get back up, and that they continued to move forward. That they didn't quit and say, well, I failed and I'm never going to do that again, and go off and do something completely different where they're safe away from failure. I feel like failure is part of the process. Eating shit is part of the process. That's where the real lessons are, in the dirt. And I've got friends who have asked or begged for handouts. They've said like, hey, I'm wanting to switch from lighting into effects. Bring me on your team. I know I can do it. I'll do whatever it takes. Or I want a promotion because I'm going to leave soon, and the next place I want to have this title. So can you just make me a lead so that way I'm instantly a lead at the next place? I'll get more money and I'll get more responsibility. All these things that I probably haven't actually earned or worked for yet. All of these things that we put ourselves in alignment for, that we're asking other people externally to give us rather than us having to work for it, experience it, fail and suck, and eventually get there, and then it all works out. And I've really resented myself for helping my friends by giving them that promotion or giving them that opportunity. It's not that I don't think that they could do the work. It's because I feel like I'm doing them a disservice by giving them the quick win. Instead of saying, well, look, like you having to take a pay cut and work for shit money again, even just temporarily, you having to go and do all this stuff where you're going to fail miserably a bunch of times. Like, this is what's going to make you good. This is what made me good. I didn't get here by being good at what I did all the time. I got to where I am by sucking all the time and failing all the time and learning from my mistakes, having those goals and doing everything else. But I have plenty of stories of just having to eat shit and looking back now saying, wow, I would never do that in a million years now. But at the time, there was no other option. I had to do it. And I learned so much from it. Those are my wounds I get to lick. They're my war stories that I can look back on. Whether it's working with a-hole people, or whether it's working in shitty situations, being homeless, all of these things that I've gone through and that we all go through, those are going to make you stronger. So when I help my friends and they're not actually ready for all of these great opportunities yet, by me saying, okay, I'll do this for you, here you go, here's Easy Street, I'm doing them a disservice. So this is a bit of a different episode to maybe some of the other stuff that we cover. Obviously, I want everything to be applicable to us as creatives, as artists, in our career, as well as with our skill sets and everything else as well. But I do think it's so critical to have that mindset that, shit, I'm going to have to actually do work. That's part of the process. Me saying, I'm wanting to be a VFX supervisor in Hollywood. That was one of the tens of thousands of responses to like what your dream goal is that I put out yesterday to my email list, the inner circle. And when I ask like, what are you doing right now to move towards that goal? Most of the people would respond nothing. And so I think that, let's say that I made a course on how to be a VFX supervisor, and I have thought about it. People would sign up in a second because they think that I buy the course, I'm a VFX supervisor. It's like, no. Okay, buy the course, buy a camera, get some friends, and go make really bad films for a year in your spare time while going through the training, me mentoring you, pushing you, applying all that to your own projects. All of these combined things together, a year later, you're going to have the knowledge to be able to do the job, but you won't have the experience, and you definitely won't have the opportunity yet. But you've made a big leap towards the process. Now you can actually go and start to work your way up. And because you have that core foundation, you probably will excel very quickly into these roles, and you can probably leap forward very quickly. Or you can start to create your own independent films and start to get experience that way, and hopefully then build it up that way too. But either way, the title doesn't come with it. The same way, and I love it when someone starts their own company and they give themselves the title of CEO. It's like, yeah, I'm the CEO, I'm the president of my own LLC company. It's like, well, how many employees do you have? Well, right now I'm the sole proprietor, but, I'm hoping eventually I'll have a VA and, technically Siri works for me. So, big corporation. This is the sort of entitlement that a lot of us have. And this is why I think it's so critical that we need to take a step back and kind of realign ourselves in expectations, but more importantly, put the pain point where it needs to be. So as I said at the very beginning, if it was to get in shape, join the gym, when you join the gym, that's you telling yourself, I did it. Fucking did it. I nailed that shit. I swiped that credit card like a champ. The pain is over. And then you're going to feel guilty that you're not going. I got to go to the gym. I got to go to the gym. Then you go to the gym. Man, this is a lot of work. So work hard now so you don't have to work hard later. Or work hard now so you don't have to work at all later. Have a strategy. Track it. Do the things that you don't want to do because nobody else is doing them. In other words, I say you got to do more than show up. But when you look at all the other people who are not putting time and energy into their career, showing up at least is more than they're doing. But that should just be part of the process. That should be part of the plan. I show up, great. What's the next step? Skills are not talent. Talent is applying yourself. Skills are learned. Skills are acquired. You put in your 10,000 hours, you can be an expert at almost anything. Mindset is everything. It's what's going to keep you going, and it's going to keep you from stopping your complaining, asking everyone else for handouts, and it's going to be the thing that's going to allow you to create your own opportunities. So in closing, you got to be in it to win it, which means showing up, doing the work, analyzing that data, and trying new things. I said it before, but if if you're firing out reel after reel after reel, I've said this a few times in the past couple of weeks, but like I've get so many emails lately. The first time I got one where it said I sent out 115 emails applying for jobs and I didn't get a single response. The first time I heard that, I was shocked. And then I've heard it so many times in the past 12 months that I'm just like, why were you doing the same thing after the 10th email that you didn't get a result? Why didn't you go back and say, well, hey, let me just check if people are even reading my email. Maybe the subject heading sucks. Maybe the email is too long or too convoluted or it's setting off the wrong vibe. Let me tweak all these things and bit by bit, let me just try and get a result. Because I'm not getting anything back, there's no data to go on. In other words, I'm just doing the same naive thing over and over. I'm boiling water, I'm treading water, I'm doing the same thing as just burning energy for the sake of it. I'm staying busy for busy's sake. Wins and fails are the same. They both lead you to an end result. So you do an 80-20 analysis. You look at, okay, well, what is working? Do more of that. What's not working? Okay, avoid that stuff. Focus on what's moving you closer to those goals. Like I said, it's easy to stay busy for busy's sake, and we all get caught in this. I do all the time too, but I catch myself. That's why I'm tracking my days right now, because I'm like, I really cannot let an hour slip through. I got to make sure I'm making progress all the time. So you put in the work now so you don't need to later on. Finally, share this episode. Take 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Share this episode. It would mean the world to me. Subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. And don't forget, have fun once in a while.